Eddy Merckx opens the floodgates. In a recent interview, cycling legend Eddy Merckx, the man known as the Cannibal, the man with 11 Grand Tours, the man who ate mountains for breakfast and sprinted through time itself, said something that will either make you fist bump in agreement or throw your phone into the nearest hedge. Here's what he said, quote, "It's a pity that Matthew isn't more of a stage race rider, because he's the only one who could really challenge Pogačar." Let's read that again. Slower this time. The only one. Not Remco, not Jonas, not Primrose, not Carlos Rodriguez, not Ayuso, Evenepoel, Roglic, Bernal, Thomas, Hindley, Almeida, or whoever you're fanboying this week. According to Merckx, the one and only rider who could challenge Tour de France dominator Tadej Pogačar is Mathieu van der Poel, a man who has never finished a Grand Tour de France higher than 57th place. Now, it's easy to laugh and say, come on Eddie, that's nostalgia talking. But no, Merckx is not making a wild statement based on vibes. He's saying this because, according to him, Van der Poel has raw power, the explosivity, the mental aggression, and above all, the potential. It's a bold theory, but let's dissect it. Why would Merckx make this claim? It's likely that Merckx sees himself in Van der Poel, a rider who doesn't just sit in a group and measure watts, a rider who actually races, one that does mountain biking. Yeah, this guy's savage. He takes initiative. He breaks patterns. He attacks just to watch the world burn. Van der Poel is like Merckx, in pure chaos on wheels. In a world where the GC guys are all looking at their power meters and calculating VAMs, Van der Poel is racing like it's 1973. He isn't here to conserve energy, he's here to obliterate you. Now, is he better than Pogačar in terms of Grand Tour consistency? No, and of course, we're not crazy. But is he physically capable of catching or matching Pogačar on key stages, especially the punchy aggressive ones? Possibly. Is he better at sprinting? Absolutely. Is he better in cobbled chaos, crosswinds and wild finishes? You bet. So the question becomes, if Van der Poel decided to commit to a Tour de France GC campaign, like losing some more weight, extending his climbing endurance, dialing in his recovery, adding more hours to his week, could he take Pogačar and actually keep up? Merckx thinks yes, and if you think about it hard enough, you might start to believe it too. The internet reacts like the world's on fire. Predictably, the moment Merckx said the words Matthew and challenging Pogačar in the same breath, cycling Twitter became an actual chaos zone. One half of fans erupted in laughter. Quote, has Merckx even watched a GC climb since 2018? Quote, does he know what Van der Poel weighs? Quote, did he hit his head on a vintage downtube shifter? The other half are foaming at the mouth with rage. How dare anyone say that someone can beat Tadej Pogačar? That is absolutely unacceptable. That is hearsay. That is the Tour de France equivalent of saying water isn't wet. Because here's the thing. Pogačar is no longer just a rider. He's a cycling golden boy. A living fairy tale who wins monuments and Grand Tours while smiling, wheeling, and thanking fans in 4 languages. He's the kid who wins a time trial on La Planche des Belles Filles and then posts Strava kudos to the guy who came second. So when you suggest someone can beat him, especially someone who hasn't even sniffed a Tour GC top 10, it gets personal. The fan base doesn't just disagree, they feel threatened. It's like someone said Mozart could be challenged by a DJ from Rotherham. It's like someone saying Einstein's theories could be outdone by a high school physics teacher with vibes and charisma. And yet Merckx said it, calmly, with conviction. He didn't hedge, he didn't qualify it, he just dropped it and moved on. So now the question is, could he be right? Because the question isn't whether fans are mad, well, they are. Could Matthew actually do it? Let's get sciencey. Alright, let's get out the numbers, lab coats, and slightly scuffed PhD level cycling nerdy goggles. Could Mathieu van der Poel actually develop into a Tour de France GC rider good enough to go toe-to-toe with Tadej Pogačar on many stages? Let's break it down into components. Endurance and aerobic power. Pogačar can ride 6.2 to 6.4 watts per kilo for 40 minutes on climbs at altitude. That's alien territory. Van der Poel currently peaks around 5.8 to 6 watts per kilo over 30 minutes, but that's at a heavier race weight. Van der Poel's natural weight is 75 to 76 kilos, but for a Grand Tour he'd need to lean out to 70 or 71. With some adaptation and careful training, he could push to 6.2 watts per kilo. However, there's an argument that if he loses that extra muscle mass, that he could actually lose more fitness and power, making him worse at sprint finishes, and overall making his ability lower. Probability of Van der Poel matching Pogačar's climbing wattage in 2 years we calculated to be 55%, if he does all these things. Recovery over 3 weeks. This is where things get dicey. Pogačar recovers like a machine. Van der Poel is often faded in stage races after the first week. But here's the twist. He's never trained for it. His schedule is full of cyclocross, spring classics, and explosive short-form racing. If he were to build his entire year around one goal, like Pogačar does, his body would likely adapt differently. He'd train at altitude, lose muscle bulk, and dial in his sleep, nutrition, and stage-by-stage fueling, not to mention increasing his weekly hours by maybe 15 hours around about. Probability of Van der Poel developing tour-level recovery in 18 months, 40%. Time trialling. Pogačar is in an elite time trialist category. Van der Poel is surprisingly good at time trialling when he focuses. In fact, he's beaten world-class time trialists in short, punchy TTs. If he trained more on a TT bike and leaned out to optimize aero, we could see a Remco 2.0 type evolution. Less of a full TT monster, but capable of not losing time on flatter routes. Possibility of Van der Poel losing 30 seconds to Pogačar in a Tour TT by 2027, 70%. Overall potential. So let's run the total odds, assuming he drops weight, trains for endurance, focuses on recovery and sacrifices spring classics. Probability of Van der Poel becoming a Tour de France GC podium contender in 2 to 3 years, we calculated at 45%. Probability of Van der Poel defeating Pogačar in a Tour where everything goes right, 20%. Those are pretty high, well, not really high numbers. I don't want to annoy Van der Poel fans, but they're not zero either. The butterfly effect of belief. Now, here's where things get philosophical. Sometimes greatness just can't be about numbers. Sometimes it's about belief. Eddy Merckx saying Van der Poel can beat Pogačar is like saying Michael Jordan saying Devin Booker could break his world records. It's planting a seed, I guess. Van der Poel has already done the impossible more than once. He won the world champs with no teammates, survived cobbles, crosswinds, crashes and carnage to dominate the spring season. He won 6 monuments and won every type of race that isn't a Grand Tour GC. So, the next part of this video, I turn to you guys. What do you actually think? Go down below in the comments and let me know, and don't forget to leave a like on today's video for good luck. Also, subscribe to my channel if this is your first time here, as I upload the latest cycling news, cycling drama, and cycling results. I'll catch you guys in the next one.